Tim Sika, everybody. Hello.
Hi, Kim. Happy
Hi.
Friday.
Happy Friday to you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me. You sound a little better this week than you did
I
last
feel
week.
better. I still have the cough.
Yeah, you still have it in your voice. You can still hear it. Yeah.
Yeah. Better than Mark Thompson, though. He just got it. He tested positive yesterday, and
Oh,
today he was
wow.
feeling a little faint, had to leave the show. So.
Really? Yeah. A lot of people that managed to avoid getting it in the last 4 years,
Yeah.
man, they're starting to succumb now. Yeah, I know a lot of people that never had it before, but all of a sudden have gotten it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. I avoided
Yeah.
it until now. So,
Well, I'm glad
you
you sound
know,
better. I'm glad you're feeling better too.
I got your list of movies that you're going to talk about, and I was so excited to see all of them. We've got a lot
Yeah.
to talk about, my friend.
I know. I hope I can be pithy this
No,
week.
it's okay. We'll just take whatever you got. One of them,
Okay.
though, the first one you're looking at, is a movie called Didi or Didi.
It's Didi. And I think, yeah, if I remember correctly, I think Michael Snyder reviewed this last week on Mark Thompson's show because it
Yeah,
opened in LA last week, but it opens today in the Bay Area, which is, the what we're covering here. And yeah, it's called Didi. And there's a lot of promotion around the film, ads and such. And like the next movie that we're going to talk about, Sing Sing, it's of local interest as well because this one, Didi, was written and directed by Sean Wong, who is from Fremont and who has set his story in Fremont, this story, and it's based on his growing up in Fremont as this awkward 13-year-old teenager trying to figure out who he is, trying to
sure.
negotiate his way through family and friends and first crushes. Those are the worst, right?
Yeah.
uh, all of that from the standpoint of being a Taiwanese American boy growing up in a Taiwanese American family and that whole dynamic. So there's a hyper kind of specificity to this story set in Fremont in 2008 when, and this was one of the things that was kind of original about it. When it was set when teenagers of that at that time were beginning to develop a relationship and an identity with screens, computer screens, the
Sure.
early internet with things like MySpace and chat rooms and AOL messaging, but it was pre-YouTube explosion and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all that. So it's basically about the awkwardness of adolescence from an Asian American perspective. Very sincere. It's a really sweet mother-son story. Joan Chen, who lives in San Francisco, the great Joan Chen, magnificently and with great reserve and subtlety portrays the mom. The director's real life grandmother plays his very traditional grandma in the film, so that's a nice touch. It's a nice, at times, somewhat sweet little movie. I'm a bit surprised at all the hype surrounding the movie. It won awards at Sundance, specifically an audience award, but it failed for me to live up to that hype because there's really nothing new here we haven't seen in countless other movies before. So I found it kind of unoriginal. It did have
Mhm.
the immigrant twist to it, so that made it kind of more interesting. But the basic content, But anyway, the acting's excellent. The content is relatable, and it has a kind of artistically authentic personal approach to its storytelling that are good enough reasons to recommend it. So I recommend Didi.
Okay. Let's move on to this one. It's called Sing Sing, about the
Yeah,
prison, I guess, huh?
yeah. This film too has a local angle to it in that, well, first of all, it stars Academy Award nominee Coleman Domingo, and he plays a prison inmate. Domingo has enjoyed this over 30-year relationship, relationship collaboration with Sean San Jose, who's one of the featured ensemble cast members in Sing Sing. He's a very big name in San Francisco theater. Anyway, yeah, Sing Sing. It's probably the most unique prison drama I think you'll ever see for a couple of reasons. I'll mention those as I think of them, but it's also kind of revolutionary in the sense that its portrait of prison inmates. The focus here is on their humanity as opposed to the crimes that put them in prison in the first place. The filmmakers don't shy away from the fact that they got, these were major crimes these guys committed because they're in Sing Sing.
Right.
But it's also revolutionary in the idea of an arts program, which is what Sing Sing is based on, coming into a maximum security prison. That in itself is revolutionary because it goes completely against the system that got these guys there in the first place. And that arts program that this movie and story is based on is the real life rehabilitation through the arts program at Sing Sing. And so the movie centers on a group of inmates involved in this program and in the creation of theatrical stage shows through the program. And what's interesting is the film stars professional actors like Coleman Domingo and Paul Raci, alongside many real-life formerly incarcerated men who were themselves alumni of this program while they were incarcerated, including this guy, Clarence Macklin. He also stars in the film, and he has never acted before, but he was a beneficiary of this program. And he is so amazing. One of the first things I did after I saw the film is I looked up this guy. I go, who is this guy? He is so amazing. Well, this is the first movie he's ever been in. And it's quite like he's going to get an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He's that good.
From prison to the Oscars. That's crazy.
No, really. Well, what's interesting about the Oscars too, and again, I'm going off on tangents here, but what's interesting about the Oscars is a lot of times what wins you an Oscar, I mean, first of all, you got to have a good performance, but it's your narrative, right?
Yeah.
And they've done this a lot with performers who have been through things and sort of like transcended those things and got their lives together and became accomplished actors. Anyway, he's got a good narrative too. So anyway, in fact, the thing is, I thought all of the guys playing these prison inmates were professional actors. And at the end, I was shocked to see that 80% of them were actually Sing Sing inmates. So the program is very, very effective. Mm-hmm. And when you think of movies and the prison genre movie, you immediately think of threatening setting, violence, prisoner upbringings, uprisings. I mean, all of that. Yet the emphasis here is, and I mean, there's no doubt where we are. We're in this maximum security prison with inmates who have committed crimes. But this movie's emphasis is on theater, personal empowerment, and self-expression through theater and this program, this rehabilitation through the arts program. So in its own way, this is a prison movie that gives new meaning to that term, because in the end, it's really it's not a prison movie. It's more of an unabashed celebration of the transformative power of art through performance. Very unique movie. It doesn't always, go ahead.
It's not a documentary, though. You say it's
a
drama.
No, okay. It's not. It has a documentary feel, but it's very much a drama. It doesn't always, I'm going to say this too, because I'm a critic. It doesn't always stick the landing, so to speak, because it's the series of scenes that don't always coalesce into a complete narrative, but its take is one we've never seen before. And for that alone, I got to recommend it. It's very, very different. Okay. Yeah.
The next one you have on your list, that sounds really interesting, by the way.
Yeah, it is interesting, yeah.
The next one is called Kneecap.
Kneecap, yeah. I love that poster. Great energetic fun is this next movie, Kneecap, which is sort of a musical biopic about the Irish rap group Kneecap. I believe it's the first movie in the Irish language, which is, it's Gaelic, is another term for Irish language is Gaelic, to play at the Sundance Film Festival. Anyway, Kneecap is supposedly the real life story of this rap group, these guys in the poster there, whose members are essentially three kind of aimless Irish language speakers from West Belfast who form this rap group and become unlikely figureheads for the civil rights movement in Ireland to save the Irish language. Because speaking Irish, I think it was until a bill was passed in 2022, was actually outlawed in Ireland. Anyway, so we have so many to get to today. So suffice it to say that I really love this movie. I loved its energy. Stylistically, it reminded me of Danny Boyle's Train Spotting. It's decidedly off the rails and really what I like to call a rattling good tale. It's overflowing with anarchy and FU energy, but it's also a movie about language and the power of language. Language as symbol, language as a tool for communication and change, and as an expression of identity. It's gleefully subversive. There's lots of drug usage in the film, so I wouldn't recommend this movie for kids.
Right.
And even though its anarchy runs wild in the movie, there's still this rooting interest in these characters. You start to care about these guys and where they're going to end up and how they're going to end up there, and what their fate's going to be. Their balls out intolerance for BS. Oh man, that's right up my alley. I can't stand BS of any kind. Anyway, there's great Irish rap, and yeah, a good time will be had by all who resonate at all with anything I've just said. So anyway, it's a hardcore, fun motion picture. I recommend it. Kneecap.
You have me convinced.
Oh, good.
The next one on the list is called Sebastian.
Yeah, Sebastian debuted at Sundance. It was in competition for the Grand Jury World Cinema Prize at Sundance this year. Yeah. Okay.
Uh-oh.
All right. No. Yeah. Oh no. Why was I betraying my? And the tone of my voice. Anyway, this is an interesting movie. I'll say that it's about this aspiring writer in a star-making performance by Scottish actor Rory Malika, who is writing a novel, right? And part of the research for that novel involves sex work. So in order to write a true and authentic novel, he starts to live a double life. By day, a serious writer named Max, and by night, a male sex worker for money named Sebastian. And thus, it kind of sets the stage for a fairly compelling, kind of layered, stark, but thematically muddled movie that to its credit, and this is why I'm going to recommend this movie. This is why it's memorable. You can't dismiss it, even though it's severely flawed. It explores, it explores all kinds of interesting subjects and questions about identity and artistic integrity and sex work as a chosen profession, the ethics of transforming one's life and one's life experiences into art. Because the main character of Max, the writer, and he's Sebastian of the title, the sex worker. He's living two lives, right? One as an emerging writer of considerable talent, and then the other as a gay sex worker. Speaking of, there is lots of sex in this movie, which is why I think some critics are overlooking the movie's flaws, if you want to know what I think. Lots of sex in this movie, but the depiction of sex work was compelling as it was done, I think, in a way that made you think about the link between, or the relationship between, sex and creativity. But none of these themes were, for me, sufficiently developed. And they just kept begging questions like, well, is this guy Max engaging in sex work to write about it, or is he writing about sex work so he can engage in it? So it was confusing to me about what the point of this movie was. So in summation, it's a serious, well-intentioned movie that explores a lot of interesting ideas and questions, but that doesn't, I'm going to use this phrase again, stick the landing. But I'm recommending it with reservations. This may not be everyone's cup of tea because it is a queer movie written and directed by a queer filmmaker. His name is Miko Amalika. But if I heard somebody say what I just said, that I think that would be enough for me to want to see it anyway, because the opinion part of that statement I might disagree with. I might think the opposite, that the movie's themes did indeed mesh well with the drama. But so anyway, that's my unpithy take of Sebastian. Lots of good ideas. You decide for yourself whether they all, coalesce and make an interesting drama. It is interesting. I'm contradicting myself. It's interesting, but I'm just going, what the hell is this movie trying to say? What is it about? Yeah. And what is my takeaway supposed to be? I was unclear. So, but I'm recommending it.
Coup.
Coup. Oh, coup. Oh, coup. It's pronounced coup.
Coup? Okay.
Right. Coup, as in, a
A
sudden siege.
takeover?
Yeah, a takeover.
I wasn't sure. We had a chef here, and I thought, well, maybe that's some French dish. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I thought too
Yeah.
when they sent me this movie to check out. Yeah, no, it's Coup with an exclamation point.
Yeah.
It's a political satire. It's a
Oh.
period film, and it's a comedy of menace, to quote the playwright Harold Pinter and the filmmakers. And what is, God, how can I? Okay, the story takes place at a seaside estate, and in what I think is like upstate New York at the end of World War One, and it's set during the 1918 influenza epidemic, the 1918 flu pandemic, which is also known as the Spanish flu, which I'm only saying that for context. I think the historians are getting away from that because it was called, the only reason it was called the Spanish flu was because Spain was the first country to acknowledge its existence. Nobody knows how it got started anyway, or maybe they do, I just don't know. But anyway, lots of Americans were being killed. Millions of Americans were being killed at this time. And living at this seaside estate is this entitled progressive journalist and his family. They're very wealthy. And to cut to the chase, they hire this cook, played by Peter Sarsgaard in the poster there, who slowly begins to sort of take over the household and the household staff, basically turning the servants of the manor house into the masters of the manor house. So it's this kind of like class warfare comedy, at times very funny, at times very over the top. And taking place in 1918 during the great influenza epidemic, it's very easy, and it's intentional, I think, on the part of the filmmakers to see the parallels to what is happening today in this country. Not much has changed. In fact, with the rise and political influence of these billionaire oligarchs, an argument can be made that it's gotten worse, actually, but lots of parallels with history here. So, in summation, what can I say here about Coup? It's a movie that makes a statement about class struggle and political hypocrisy, but not at the expense of entertaining you. So it's an entertainment first, which is what I liked about it the most, because, I'm always looking for meaning in movies. But that came later as I was thinking about it. It's a very entertaining picture. It's wild, it's colorful, it's very well acted, and very aptly titled Coup, which, is defined as a sudden seizure of power, because that's the drama of this movie. This cook taking over this household, and it also sort of exposes the hypocrisy too of the very, very wealthy who depend on people like this cook and their staff to basically take care of them, and when that's gone, they really don't know how to do it. They don't know how to tend to those things that they depend on other people to do for them. So
Recommend it?
Yes, I recommend Coup.
All right. Coup it is. What about this one? Hollywoodgate.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. Drink some water here. I'm talking
It doesn't
a lot.
look very Hollywoody. That looks more like we're in the Middle East.
Yeah, well, yeah, we are in Afghanistan, and this is a documentary that documents the immediate aftermath, Kim, of America's 2021 withdrawal from the 20-year Afghanistan war, and the Taliban retaking control of the country. It was shot in over a year by this Egyptian journalist. His name was Ibrahim Nashat. As the Taliban have reclaimed Kabul and literally transformed themselves from this fundamentalist militia into a heavily armed military regime preparing for war. And war that goes well beyond Afghanistan's borders. That's one of the many chilling aspects of this movie. The filmmaker was granted access by the Taliban to actually film this, but was only allowed to film what the Taliban allowed him to see. So, but what's interesting about that, and I'll get to that in a second here, what we see, first of all, what we see, apparently when we left Afghanistan, I didn't know this until I saw this movie. According to the Pentagon, the U.S. left over like $7 billion dollars worth of military equipment there. So what we see is the Taliban discovering all of this as they entered this like American base in Kabul called Hollywoodgate. That's the name of the movie. That's why it's called Hollywoodgate, which was reputed to have been the secret CIA station, right? And as they entered this base, uncover all of this sophisticated American weaponry that was left there by us, small arms and munitions, but also jet fighters and Black Hawk helicopters.
Crazy.
And I know, right? And this is the thing, a lot of it is damaged. So you're watching this going, well, it's all wrecked anyway. But the base was also equipped and still is equipped with many of the parts needed to fix this stuff. So we watched the Taliban restoring and fixing all of this weaponry and then training themselves to use it. So anyway, so the movie focuses on two Taliban members. One is the head of Afghanistan's Air Force, I can't remember his name, whose father was killed by the Americans and who was hell-bent on revenge to the infidels. And the other is a former Taliban fighter who's trying to advance to a high-ranking military position within the Afghanistan army and who also dreams of avenging the war big time. So this is a very chilling portrait on what is happening inside Afghanistan today. When we left, we may have technically ended our stay over there as occupiers, but based on this movie, which even though the Taliban is controlling what we see, we still see them. I mean, they can't hide the fact for what and who they are. Yeah. They're religious fundamentalist terrorists. And so the real damage, I think, is going to come later. And one shudders at what that could or might look like. Anyway, so
that's scary.
Very good movie, Hollywoodgate. And it's a grim and sobering one, too. Yep.
Oh, no.
Yeah. That was my takeaway. Like, oh, geez.
From the horrors of reality, now back into what may be a good story. This is Trap.
Yeah, Trap. M. Night Shyamalan, best known for The Sixth Sense. You've seen The Sixth Sense, right?
Oh, love that movie, yeah.
Yeah, everybody loves that movie. It's great. Everybody I know have seen that movie, right? Anyway, he's back writing and directing another suspense thriller. It's called Trap. And in it, former teen heartthrob, I guess he was a former teen heartthrob, Josh Hartnett. Yeah, that's him in the poster. He plays a serial killer who he's attempting to evade police capture while attending this Taylor Swift-like pop concert with his teenage daughter. So the setting is a concert, lots and lots of security, screaming fans, and somehow the police know that the serial killer, aka the Butcher, because he likes to chop up his victims, is attending this concert. We find out how they knew later on in the third act that I wasn't buying it anyway. But the police know they finally cornered this guy. So the head of police operations, played by none other than, guess who's playing the police head of operations in this movie? Hayley Mills.
Oh, wow.
Remember Hayley Mills?
Yeah.
Yeah, star of Disney's Pollyanna, Trouble with Angels, lovely actress, still working, so, good for her. Anyway, the head of the strategic operation to catch this guy is played by Hayley Mills. And so the movie is this series of, are they going to catch him? How does he manage to keep eluding them? Blah, 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 blah. And I guess this is a semi-clever movie, kind of, but it's also semi-stupid, too. I mean, it would have been better if it had been played more tongue-in-cheek. It seems like that's the way Josh Hartnett, who's fun to watch, by the way, is playing this psychopath who's leading a double life because his family, they have no idea. His daughter has no idea. His wife has no idea about the second life he has, and his young son. None of them know. But the director seems to have more serious intentions going on. So I think Hartnett's playing it like it's kind of tongue-in-cheek with the Shyamalan's serious approach to the direction kind of clash. but also, to be fair, it does have its share of creepy directorial flourishes. They use close-ups to really good effect and to heighten tension in the movie. The direction occasionally will supersede the implausibilities of the script, which are many. It just gets more and more ridiculous as it goes along. The director's daughter, Sika Shyamalan, plays the Taylor Swift-like concert performer. Her name was Lady Raven, which is a great name. She's very good. She's writing and performing all her own songs. Apparently, she's an R&B singer. I didn't know. I had never even heard of her in real life. But she's also a very good actress. She's a good reason to see the film. And it's fine, I guess, but, I'm going to give this one a pass. I think despite its occasional effective moments, overall, I just don't think it fully worked. So, I'm going to say, skip, trap, or avoid falling into the trap of trap. No. And I did happen to see it with a preview audience. It was like a preview audience where they were like testing people's reactions. And it was fairly full. Based on that screening, I would say it's not just me who's saying this. There were a couple like nervous laughs, but I didn't get that the audience particularly grooved on it either. So whatever. I'm trying to defend my position by saying the audience agreed with me too. But I don't know. I think M. Night Shyamalan has made way better movies than this one. So I'm saying skip it.
Skip it. What about this one? Made in England.
Yes, the films of Powell and Pressburger, a documentary that is like the highest grade of catnip for cinephiles and movie lovers and movie fans or anybody interested in cinema history. And it's about what the title says, the films of Powell and Pressburger, the British filmmaking team of Emmerich Pressburger, who wrote the scripts, and Michael Powell, who directed the scripts, and who for nearly 20 years collaborated on so many great movies, so many cinema classics like The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, The 49th Parallel, Black Narcissus, great movie, and The Red Shoes. That's probably their most famous movie. And our host for this presentation of the films of Powell and Pressburger is none other than the American Dean of Cinema himself, director Martin Scorsese, who has always admitted this huge indebtedness to the filmmakers and the influence that the filmmakers had on his own body of work, and who in later years was able to enjoy a friendship with Michael Powell. Scorsese's editor, Thelma Schoonmaker, was in fact married to Michael Powell. So anyway, yeah, I love this movie. Always a mark of a great documentary, Kim, of this kind is when the movie's over, the first thing you literally want to do is go and watch the movies covered in the documentary over again. Or if you're unfamiliar with those movies, you really do want to watch them for the first time, because this movie functions well, not only as one for the fans, but maybe also one for folks who've never heard of Powell and Pressburger or have never seen a Powell Pressburger movie. So it's a deep dive into some remarkable movies hosted by one of the most remarkable film directors of our time, Martin Scorsese. I have no objectivity about this movie. I just loved it. It's right in my wheelhouse. It appealed to me on every level of my movie-loving career. I just loved it. It's called Made in England, the films of Powell and Pressburger, and it's opening in theaters today, select theaters in the Bay Area.
All right, to review, you said Didi is unoriginal, but you'll recommend it.
Yeah.
Sing Sing. You said this movie is revolutionary. You love the focus on humanity. You'll recommend it.
Yes.
Kneecap. You said it's fun. You loved it. It was a hardcore good time.
Yeah. I did. Yeah. How are you remembering all this stuff? You have to.
I take notes. You see me looking down. I'm taping. When you say something that particularly strikes me, I zap it.
Oh, okay. I'm impressed that you can summarize all this jabber.
Sebastian, you called it flawed but memorable. Yeah. Well intentioned. You'll recommend it, but with reservations. It's got a lot of sex in it. So
yeah, a lot of sex.
Yeah. If that's not your jam, then maybe you're not going to love it.
Yeah.
The movie Coup, not Coop, but Coup. You said it's really entertaining, and you're going to recommend this one as well.
Yep.
Hollywoodgate. You say this is a very, very good movie, but it's also grim. You called it very grim.
Very grim, and like a slap in the face of reality. Yeah.
Trap. You said this movie is a pass. It doesn't fully work, and you shouldn't go see it. You're going to pass on it.
It's a trap. Yeah.
However, Made in England, you loved it. This is Made in England, the films of Powell and Pressburger. You said it's a deep dive into some remarkable movies. You are all for this. This is right in your wheelhouse. You say yes, yes, yes to this one.
Yeah. And you get another A for your accurate summarization of my blatherings here.
I'm nothing if not a good note taker, my friend.
Yeah.
Yes. You've done it again, and this time you brought us so much. And I'm always so grateful when and again, I've had COVID, so I've really not had a lot to do in this office but flip through Netflix. So I try to remember, what did he say about this one? What did he say about this one? I'm always so grateful to have that knowledge going into it, at least like to try to remember what you're recommending. So I have my Tim Sika list, and I have some new things to put on it today.
Yeah, well, thank you, Kim, and thanks for having me. And it's always great. You let me just go on, and I appreciate it. It's we don't always get these forums where we can, today with everything, and we're getting a lot of like pushback from some of the critics groups that I'm in. The studios are really, I don't think they want the same kind of film criticism that used to go over with the public. They're like into TikTok and this 2-second, what's that called? Not a log line. What's it? There's a phrase for like a short statement. What's it called?
Tagline?
Yeah, not tagline, but just say it with the least amount of words as possible. Now there's an art to that, but a lot of times it comes across as surface and superficial. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, so
you can't really tell the full story. You can't really dig into it like you do here.
Right? No, but right. Back to my point. I really appreciate the forum, and thank you for having me.